stuff. That's just super amazing, isn't it? Africa Business Radio is doing 442 on the news with 40% Nigerian stories, 40% African stories, and 20% global stories. Now that... Oh, this feels like the final football match between two soccer warriors. Oh my God, can some... Go, 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 breaking goal! Grown, hot, breaking goal! Grown, hot, breaking goal! Go, 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 go! Yes. Go!
Here's the news on Africa Business Radio. First, the top stories. NNPC discovers oil in the northern part of Nigeria. Bankers express worry over money apportioned to debt service in Nigeria. World Bank warns Kenya against debt piling. Facebook's Libra suffers another blow. I am Olaiton Meadows with the details shortly. Several bankers in Nigeria have expressed worries over the huge amount of budget apportioned to debt servicing. It was gathered that the federal government's domestic debt outstanding grew by 1.26 trillion naira to 13.41 trillion naira as of June 2019, higher than the figure recorded in June 2018. This information is according to Central Bank's half-year report on federal government's domestic debt. The report explained that the debt stock for the period under review consisted of federal government's bond worth 9.69 trillion naira or 72.26%, Nigerian treasury bills worth 2.65 trillion naira or 19.77%, and FRN treasury bonds of 125.99 billion naira or 0.94%. The federal government also disclosed that a whopping sum of 2.45 trillion naira was set aside for debt servicing in its 2020 appropriation bill. Reacting to the development, the President, Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, Uche Olowu, warned that newest trend of debt servicing is a warning signal. He also noted that if the expected impact outcome fails to come into fruition, things may only get worse. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) has discovered crude oil, gas and condensates in the Kolmani River region in the border community between Bauchi and Gombe states. This is coming 8 months after President Muhammadu Buhari flagged off the exploration of oil in the Kolmani River 2 well on the upper Benue Trough, Gongola Basin in the northeastern part of the country. According to Samson Makoji, the acting group general manager, Group Public Affairs Division, the corporation acquired 435.54 kilometers of 3D seismic data of a Kolmani prospect in the upper Benue Trough, Gongola Basin. The essence was to evaluate Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production Company Kolmani River 1 well discovery of 33 BCF while exploring deeper levels. Makoji said the oil well was drilled to a total depth of 13,701 feet with Ikanga Rig 101, where they encountered several layers of oils and gas. He added that a drill stem test DST will be carried out to determine the commercial viability and flow of the Kolmani River reservoirs. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has disclosed that the official inflows of the remittances of Nigerians living abroad to the country was $2.6 billion and not $26 billion as quoted in some quarters. The Apex Bank cleared the air after some experts argued that the amount had not really impacted positively on the economy. Director, Corporate Communications Department (CBN), Mr. Isaac Okorafor, who queried the sources of the data being referenced by critics, dismissed the representations as fraught with inaccuracies, as he alleged that some people appeared to have misrepresented the transactions that constituted diaspora remittances. He explained that the data, purported to be from the World Bank, had also been queried by the Monetary Policy Committee (MPC) of the CBN, as it did not reflect the actual amount of inflows from Nigerians living abroad. President of the Trade Union Congress (TUC), Kadri Olaleye, has said workers will down tools over the impasse with the federal government on the consequential adjustment of the 30,000 naira new national minimum wage. This is even as he said organised labour was working forward to a proposal on a living wage. At the moment, there is no official meeting or discussion about the issue. We're having consultations with government, the National Assembly, but there are no official meetings, he said. Recently, the representative of the Joint Council and the two labour centres met with the Minister of Labour, Dr. Chris Ngige, to have a corridor discussion to look at the situation surrounding the minimum wage versus the mandate of TUC, the joint body, which is 29% for level 7 to 14. and 24% for level 15 to 17. At the end of the sitting, the minister agreed to call a meeting for Tuesday. While that was ongoing, the Labour representative also sat with the Senate Committee Chairman on Labour, trying to look for a soft landing on how to resolve the issue before the deadline. But so far, he can say that there had been no resolution, there has not been any positive discussion, so Labour still maintains the mandate and the ultimatum given. The World Bank has warned Kenya against piling up more debt, more than the country can repay, even as Parliament approved to raise borrowing ceiling to 9 trillion Kenyan shillings, equivalent of $85.7 billion. The possibility of Kenya sliding into distress is classified as moderate, having risen from low in recent years, driven by the government's rapid uptake of loans that saw the total public debt hit 5.7 trillion Kenyan shillings, equivalent of $54.3 billion by June this year. Public debt stands at 62% of gross domestic product and could hit 70% of GDP in the near future if government continues to borrow at the current rate, ultimately meaning that Kenya will have crossed the threshold to debt distress. Peter Chacha, World Bank senior economist, said it is important that future debt management adopt measures to ensure debt is not accelerating. One of the measures is to ensure that in the planned fiscal consolidation, the government must stick to a path that seeks to reduce debt from 62% of GDP towards 55% in the medium term. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has said his government will soon make an announcement on dealing with debt at power utility Eskom. The president on Monday delivered the opening address at the Financial Times Africa Summit in London. The summit is a gathering of investors, business people and decision makers. During a question-and-answer session following his address, Ramaphosa shed light on the crisis at the debt-ridden power utility. Responding to a question about government's plans to reassure rating agencies Moody's about reforming Eskom ahead of its verdict on the country's credit rating in November, Ramaphosa acknowledged that Eskom is dogged by huge debt. Eskom's debt levels surpass 450 billion rand. Ramaphosa said the collection of tariffs has weakened over time, but new strategies and programs are being developed to deal with tariff collections. Zimbabwe has geared up for the International Chromium Development Association (ICDA) conference in India, where the country will tell its story to the international community and lure potential investors. The conference that will be held in New Delhi next month brings together all stakeholders in the chromium industry: miners, smelters, stainless steel makers, financiers, as well as suppliers of machinery and other raw materials. Zimbabwe's role in the chrome sector cannot be overlooked, as it is home to the world's second-largest chrome reserves after South Africa, and its participation at the conference will also present a chance to highlight what the country has to offer, its rich mineral wealth, as well as present an opportunity for development and investment in the country's mining sector. Mines and Mining Development Deputy Minister said this will be an opportunity to network with giants in the industry, share knowledge on latest trends, as well as new technologies necessary for improving operations. This will further project that Zimbabwe is open for business mantra, with anticipations to strike investment deals. Ethiopian Airlines Group is to consider buying a stake in South African Airways should South Africa decide to sell equity in the struggling state carrier. Since 2011, South African Airways has not made profit. The airline delayed the release of its annual earnings due to its precarious financial state. Group Chief Executive Officer of Ethiopian Airlines, Tewolde Gebremariam, said that despite the African National Congress saying it will consider selling equity in the airline, there has been no visible strategy for such a plan. He added that if South Africa asks Ethiopia to buy a stake, they will consider it. Ethiopia and SAA are already partners in the Star Alliance. Tewolde said that the group had discussions with SAA's former Chief Executive Officer, Vuyani Jarana, before his resignation in May. A deal between Ethiopian Airline Group and SAA may involve with helping SAA chronic debt problems with banks, which are withholding further loans until the airline can present a repayment plan for 9.2 billion rands, equivalent of $611 million of borrowings. Ethiopian Airline is Africa's biggest aviation success story, with SAA and Kenyan Airways being its main rival, which is struggling with losses and relying on government support. The Ethiopian carrier has looked to invest in other airlines around the continent, including new carriers planned for Ghana and Zambia. Up next, foreign news. Vodafone has apologized after an error meant customers using the mobile network abroad were hit with roaming bills of up to £10,000. Customers took to Twitter saying they were unable to use their phones and could not reach the operator. Many received alerts from Vodafone that their data had run out, despite the fact that many still had data remaining in their monthly allowances. Vodafone said the issue was caused by a technical error. Since 2017, under EU regulations, UK consumers are able to use the minutes, text and data included on their mobile phone tariffs when travelling in the EU at no extra charge. Vodafone customers posted on Twitter that their bills had risen by between hundreds and thousands of pounds within just 12 hours. In August, a similar issue affected Three Ireland. The mobile operator had to apologize after a system upgrade error added bogus roaming fees to customers' bills and suspended their services. In a blow to the social media giant Facebook, the world's biggest economies had warned that cryptocurrencies such as Libra pose a risk to global financial system. The draft report outlines 9 major risks posed by such digital currencies. It warns that even if Libra's backers address concerns, the project may not get approval from regulators. The warning comes just days after payment giants MasterCard and Visa pulled out of Libra projects, citing regulatory uncertainties. The G7 task force that produced the report includes senior officials from central banks, the International Monetary Fund (IMF), and the Financial Stability Board, which coordinates rules for the G20 economies. It says backers of digital currencies like Libra must be legally sound, protect consumers, and ensure coins are not used to launder money or fund terrorism. While the report, which will be presented at finance ministers at the IMF annual meeting this week, does not single out Libra,